Check 1, 2. Oh boy. Would you look at that? Look at that candle, would ya? Alright. Let's see what we got going on here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Holy moly, folks. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? So, we didn't really spend too much time in the DCA zone, but looks like we hit 1, 2, 3, all 4 targets. Bing, bang, bong. And flashed right back on up. But now what? Now what's going to happen? Well, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, this morning, when I woke up, what do you on here? Daily this morning, I woke up here around here. I thought we were going to make, a little, this honestly looked like a little whoosh and a whoosh. And I thought, like, bear flag, come down here, break down. I was like, yes, this would be great. Come back down here, test this VWAP. That would be awesome. I guess I wasn't the only one thinking that, because market makers said, excuse me, nope. And that's why we go with the DCA. DCA, you know, when you're looking for certain targets, you want to find zones. Zones are really what you want to go for. And when you find those zones, that's where you want to be buying. And obviously this zone was pulled from this area here. If we zoom out, go back to the last zone that we were in, it was this area when we were here for 6-7 months. And this was my buy zone. This is when I was DCAing, was down in here to fill this gap, right? Because we have this major gap. A little bit of a gap here, but also pretty much filled right from there to there. So, you know, could have brought this down to there. I mean, honestly, once you're in a zone and this is your buy zone, you basically just want to buy low. So if this is our new range, I mean, buy zone's all the way down here. Anywhere down there is a buy zone, because when you're DCAing, that's how you got to treat it. And for instance, if you go back to the last bull market, if we were zoning a couple different ranges in there, but you know, say we're zoning in here, okay, well then you want to buy here. Well, now we're zoning in here, okay, well you want to buy here, and then we're back up and back into this zone, so you're still buying in this area. Once you make a high, you just don't want to buy high. That's all. So just when you make these highs, you see candles just absolutely shredding and pumping. You're like, oh my God, it's going to end. And of course, everybody in the news and on YouTube is like, it's going to 100K. And this is what? This is January 2021. Price is at 40K. Everyone says it's 100K. It's imminent. It was funny. I started a little podcast, I think, right around what would have been probably here somewhere. And that's where I was basically telling people to not buy Bitcoin. And it was the reason why we started that, because not only do we have a zone here and we're at the top, but we also had on our indicators, we had, even just on the RSI, we have lower highs on our strength and higher highs in our price, which means the move is most likely liquidity grab. It's not actually strength in the market. It's more of a liquidity grab before coming lower. So if you were buying zones back then, this would be your zone that you'd look to buy. Let's see. Let's find the rectangle and call this your zone. Maybe that was your last high after breaking here. Boom, back up there. This would be your zone. Back down to that next hot volume node, be somewhere around here. Anytime you're back in here, you were buying and you're feeling good about it, because it's like, okay, you're buying in here, now we're out of there, you're feeling good. Oh, we just tapped it again. Okay, well, another DCA, and boom, now you're feeling good. Then we come back down. Okay, well, life goes on. We're still working. We got to continue to work. You got to keep working hard and making money other ways. This is all long-term stuff. This is our hedge against the failing fiat currency idea that we've been what do you want to say it, chained to for the last, I don't know, in my entire existence. It's been going on for hundreds of years. But we know that they all fail, so glad we have a hedge. It's amazing that to be alive right now. It's absolutely amazing because we have something for the first time ever that can actually make your value from today worth more tomorrow. That's something that's never never been really a thing, aside from real estate, of course. But the problem with real estate is that it's so quickly gotten out of reach for so many people. And I really want you to understand this. Even just 20 years ago, a house was very affordable for many, many people. A large majority of the population could buy a house if they wanted to buckle down and, get the mortgage and go for buying a house. But nowadays, even people that want to can't do it because it's simply they're priced out. It doesn't matter how much money they make, interest rates and the housing prices, they're just priced out. And that is simply because the purchasing power of the whatever you want to call it, the currency that they're using is just losing value. So you're constantly working for something and the bank tells you to save it. That's the scam. Fiat currency is a scam only in the way of because the bank tells you to save it. So when the bank tells you to save money with them, they're just taking it, investing it in the markets, making 20% a year for the last few years and giving you 2%, right? So that's their business. That's how they get paid. That's how they pay their mortgages. That's what they do to make money. They use your money. So it's in their best interest for you to save money with them, but it's not in your best interest, and it never has. That's the scam. Okay. The fiat currency would work totally fine is if people were educated on the fact of how to use it. Okay, we need a medium of exchange for goods and services exchanged between people, between entities, however, businesses, whatever. We need something. But the fact that we use something that they can print at will and then the bank tells you to save it, that's the scam. And here, for example, this is the price of gold, and this is what I like to use for a good example of your purchasing power. So if this is the price of gold, we know that gold is one of the older assets known to mankind. So when it comes to charting, we can get the most information from it. We can actually go to the monthly on gold, and we can go all the way back to 1833 on this particular chart. And so if we go like this, let's get the whole thing in scale here. Now, we're going to take this and we're going to invert it. And this pretty much shows you your purchasing power. So we go all the way back in the day when we had, what's industrial revolution and unfortunately war. War was very profitable. But what happened right here is the big obvious, if you're looking at this chart, even if you've never looked at a chart before in your life, you can kind of look at this and go, what happened here? Okay, now if you don't know what happened here, it was 1971, basically when Richard Nixon took the United States off of the gold standard. And so what happened there is at one point before 1970, United States dollar was backed by gold. Therefore, it actually had value because it was attached to something that was real, that was hard money. But of course, they would still create paper debt, and with all the wars and everything else going on, Cold War, by the way, big distraction. They said it's only going to be temporary, but we're going to take us off the gold standard to manage to balance the books, right? Well, how'd that work out for you? It was only supposed to be temporary, remember, because they would have to say that when they were going to do it, because anybody that knows how economics work, if it wasn't temporary, this was going to be the outcome. Your purchasing power was going to fall off a cliff. Okay, so we knew that this was going to happen if it didn't remain temporary, but obviously it didn't remain temporary, and it's still continued happening right now. And so you're seeing, look at your purchasing power falling off a cliff once again. We had from the years of 1980 to 2000. We had 20 years of sideways price action where some people were doing okay, some businesses were starting to thrive, and things were starting to look better again. But unfortunately, through this whole era, interest rates were insane. 18%, 20%, 14%, like going all over the place. And this is kind of what caused this bit of a swing here. Remember, these are monthly candles, so we're talking that's 20 years. It's a lot of information right there, but really didn't move didn't move the markets too much. And that's understandable after we get so far away from these moving averages. This purple line here is the 200 moving average. So every 200 candles, it's smoothing them out. So when you get this far away from a moving average, I don't care what you're looking at, that is just, it's unsustainable, and it has to find its way back. And look, and we found our way back, and it kind of plateaued, and we had several years, almost looks like 5 or 6 years, where it was just like, that was probably a pretty juicy time to be alive right there. If you were starting a business, if you were trying to save money, buy a house, things, because, and then, you know what, it probably felt after that, it felt like it was a terrible time, because obviously this would have been the best time to buy, but interest rates were probably more reasonable around here. And then interest rates start to get too high, people stop buying. And then, this is probably when interest rates were high, people stopped buying, so then they have to inflate the currency again and to stimulate the economy, because that's all that it is. When they print the money, it's to stimulate the economy, give out stimulus checks, give out welfare, give out whatever, because fiat currencies are great for starting an engine, starting a society, getting things going, but it's terrible for sustaining it. So this is the kind of thing that you're going to see. Gold is never going to stop as long as we are on a fiat based system and we follow the US dollar as a world reserve currency, unless of course the US currency, the US dollar, gets tied back to something hard, which potentially could be Bitcoin. If anything at all, the only thing that would save them would be that, the quote digital gold of the space. If not, then you're going to continue to see purchasing power plummet. And this is a logarithmic scale, by the way. So you can see here we're at $20, and then we're at $40, and then we're at $80. But then it doubles. It goes up quicker than it looks like. If I were to take us off logarithmic, it takes you to almost an unreadable chart. It's not quite right, because right here now the scale is exact, so it makes it a lot harder to read. But if you put it on a logarithmic scale, then you can read it a little bit better. Where'd we go? There we go. It makes it a little bit more easy to comprehend. But the thing is, still, it's getting drastically worse as we're going on. And you can see here, $2,000 is here and $8,000 is here. That's a long, it doesn't look like very long, but that's where we're going. I wouldn't be surprised if the price of gold is somewhere around $10,000 in just a few years right now, because fiat currency is falling off a cliff. The world debt clock is skyrocketing right now, and people are, I don't know how, not understanding or seeing, but like hyperinflation is happening. It's happening all over the world. They're doing their best to try to distract you from it mainstream, I guess, but just look at a chart and you can tell it's happening. It is the fiat era if we want to maintain stability in an economy is going to have to come to an end, because all we're seeing it do is a massive divide in finances. We have a massive financial gap in those who have money and those who don't have money. It's become very bad, to the point where you're seeing everything that's happening. You're seeing the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And that's simply because the poor believe that they're trying to save money. The poor are trying their hardest to save money. So I mean, some of them don't give a shit anymore and they just have given up. And understandably so. If you're not educated on how the system works, it's very easy to get upset about what's going on. And I completely understand, because no one's told them. No one's told them what's going on. No one's told them that. Let's get a tune going here. Oh yeah. Too much. Can't turn it down anymore. That's it. It's as quiet as I can make it. Really? That's it? That's one? That's one? I guess that's not bad. I could probably turn me up a bit, I guess. There we go. Okay, so it's yeah, it's not good. It's not good. So the only so actually, okay, let's go back to this. What I saw this morning when I woke up, as I thought, it was a very good chance, and this could still happen, because what do we got here? If we go from our swing high to our swing low, we're right at the 786, right at the 786. So rejection from the 786 right here. This could be our lower high to continue lower, and it would make complete sense too, because we've built structure right here. Our POC is probably somewhere around here. Let's see if we turn on our VRVP, we can see where our POC is. And yeah, see our POC is right here. So that is a magnet for price. That is where most of the volume has been traded, is right here. So that is basically what you could call fair value. We were above fair value, we came back down. Every time we got below fair value, we came back above again and back to fair value. Now we've come below fair value and we're back to fair value. But as the way the markets move, if this is just one big round off, because the market moves up and down, up and down. It does this on small time frames and it does this on large time frames. It looks the exact same. If you zoom out, this could just be a simple up and down move, just like you see these little up and downs here. It does the same thing over and over again. So this simply could just be a lower high put in right at the POC, which, for instance, if you're looking for a trade, it might be if you look for a bearish divergence here on a smaller time frame, it might be a good little short position right here to take for a potential down here. Because again, like talked about before, we have this massive volume gap that could fill. And reason for that is because look at this big volume gap here. We ripped back up, and some call it the CME gap, and it looks to be about pretty much filled. This wick here came down to 78,000, it looks like. Just maybe 79.8 or something, like 77.8. And so I think that 76 was about where I expected us to come down to. But of course, everything is always like this. Whenever you put targets, you can't be certain prices. They got to be ranges, because nothing will very rarely get hit to $1. It's pretty much you put a range, and that's where you're likely to end up or bounce from or go to. Because there's always going to be people who are going to try and front run the charts and buy a little bit sooner or sell a little bit sooner. So even when it comes to your higher targets, you expect to get to the value area high, you might want to take profits a little bit sooner, because it might not make it all the way there, because most people who are like, okay, I'm happy about that, I'll take the profits now. It's those people who are waiting for those targets to get hit that are going to end up getting burned, because the other people are just going to take profits for you before you do. And unfortunately, that could be you losing out on your target, your payday, which you don't want to happen, of course. But look what happens. So we've done this. Now we've made a perfect retrace. I think, honestly, and I hope this happens, and hope doesn't get you far in this markets, but I can still say this. We have money flow going into the green, going into the red. We were in the green for this whole time. We've come into the red on the daily. And even if we look on the weekly, this is a pretty gnarly candle for the weekly. But still, money flow still coming out. VWAP coming out. Momentum coming out. A little bit of rounded here, but you'd like to see that more here. I would expect that we have a lot of the tariffs and stuff supposed to be hitting from United States this week, I do believe. So it would make sense to me that this could have just been a nice little short squeeze. And it's crazy because Bitcoin just moved $8,000 today, which is, not that much anymore. Bitcoin swings $10,000 at a time nowadays. We're up in the 100K range, 90K, 80K. The other thing too is that we only spent, where's $80,000? Let's find 80,000. $80,000 is right here. We spent all of one, and then where's 90,000? 90,000 is right here. So we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in $80,000 range before hitting the 90s. Then we went in the 90s all the way up to 110 for 2 months, and then we came back down, and I was so happy to see this, because I have been sitting on this DCA zone. I've been sitting on these targets for 2.5 months now, and I was just sitting on my hands because, for instance, the money flow, the bearish divergence on the higher time frame, it just looked like it was time to cool off. We've had sentiment go crazy in the mainstream media with them talking about the Bitcoin strategic reserve and all this, you know, not necessarily nonsense, but I would say smoke and mirrors, because that's what they do. Like, it doesn't matter how they're going to do it. They're always going to want to burn you. That's what the world is set up to do. Welcome to planet Earth. We're going to burn you. Trust me, man, they get off on suffering, because you got to think about it this way. It's like the people that own this planet, they have so much money and so much control. What more do they don't need your money. They don't need your land. They don't need anything. They get off on watching you suffer. They get off on screwing with you. It's like, it doesn't take that long to figure it. I figured it out when I was like 30 years old. Trust me, I was living blind and just ignorant as bliss and bliss as ignorant for years. And you know, I hoped a lot of things. I wished a lot of things. I put a lot of energy into trying to educate people on climate change and stuff like that. And this was all way before electric cars. And it wasn't until I really dug in deep and realized that, oh, it's like everything is a psyop. Everything is the opposite of what, pretty much the opposite to some extent of what they're trying to tell you. So for instance, right now with all the electric car stuff that's going on, now I'm like, no, like, we got to go back to fossil fuels. Because first of all, I mean, just the way I grew up, I can work on an engine and I can fix it myself. I do not like having other people do things for me. I like to try and figure things out for myself. I especially do not like to pay to have other people to do things for me, because I would rather put that money into Bitcoin. And that's where I find truly value comes from, is figuring out how to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable, because you never know when society is going to crumble. And if it does, especially with the way that fiat currency is treating us, it will. You got to be ready for it. And so you got to educate your kids. You got to educate your friends and family. And I know none of them want to hear it, but the truth is what the truth is. Your opinion doesn't matter at the end of the day. So if anybody is out there telling you that your opinion matters, I mean, it depends on the goal that you're trying to accomplish. But really, put your opinions aside. If you want to be successful, there's no room for opinions or your personal feelings. Unfortunately, it may sound harsh, but that's the truth. If there's a goal that you're looking to accomplish, then you need to take the steps that are necessary to achieve that goal. Despite what you think, despite what other people are telling you they think. And here we just had our candle close. Just had our daily candle close. It was actually our weekly candle close. So let's have a look at that. We might have a little bit of reaction here if we see something. So look at that. Look at that. We have not closed a weekly candle below. What was the lowest? That wasn't even the lowest candle close. That wasn't even the lowest weekly candle close. We had the weekly candle close at 93.5 in December. So this year, still, that was the lowest this year. But that's insane. Like, if you talk to anybody 2 days ago, even 3 days ago, everybody said, I woke up this morning and I saw 30K Bitcoin's coming, 40K Bitcoin's coming. And it's like, you guys, like, how do you come up with that stuff? First of all, anyone that gets sucked into that is just, and I mean, we could come back down, don't get me wrong. But when people get emotional like that, this is what happens. This morning, a bunch of people woke up and probably went short because they saw YouTube and the news and all this stuff happening. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm selling. I'm either selling now or I'm putting in a leveraged short position. So if you sold, you're now having to buy back higher if you want to get back in, or you're forced to wait and hope that the market comes back down, which, I mean, I am hoping the market comes back down because not only did I add to those positions when we did hit that, it would be nice to add more, because I am still in my 30s and I am still working and I am still planning and gathering my value for the future, because I feel pretty fantastic right now in my 30s, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be feeling pretty fantastic when I'm in my 60s, 70s plus, right? And that's kind of when I will be taking the majority of these profits. And you got to remember too, like, even when just these last 3 days happened last week, what was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these were people taking profits that have probably been in the market for years. And a lot of the time too, when they buy in, they'll put their position with a trailing stop. So in that trailing stop will usually have a, it could be a $5,000 range. And so whenever the price pushes up, it pushes up their trailing stop. And of course, everyone's going to be different and everyone's going to have a different risk tolerance. So that's why it starts out slow and then it starts to just boom, 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 and it eats away at all these orders, because these are just trailing stop losses that people could have had for years. And that is what triggers all of this sell off right here, because a market, like a stop out market would create a market sell. If you're buying and then your stop loss would be a market sell. So eventually you bought down here somewhere off chart, whatever, and at some point you're going to sell, right? So when that limit order gets hit or that stop order gets hit, it creates a market sell, which puts sell pressure on the market. And then it could trigger another one and trigger another one and trigger another one and boom, 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 and so on until the exchanges, until it comes down and hits the exchange buys. That's what we're looking for, because the exchanges are the market makers. They have the most to lose for when price moves in either direction. For instance, if we went up and just went straight sideways, and this whole time people were accumulating long positions this whole time, if the market just went straight up, the exchanges would lose so much money because they have to pay all those people out. So what they do, and you see this almost on every leg up or every leg down, is there's a flush of liquidity before moving. And this one right now could be a flush of liquidity before moving higher. Could happen for sure, with the amount of money flowing out of the space. So it would seem. I think this is more of a people losing faith and then a short squeeze. And then I think we're going to come alive. I feel like we got to spend some more time in the 80s. I've been saying this since I saw this. This is circled for a reason, because this is an imbalance in the market. This imbalance should be filled for a healthy market structure. I was very worried about this right around here when we started to go back up again and this hadn't been filled and we had support. I was like, oh no, like this is going to be bad, because if this were to go up and break a new high here, that means that we would have gone higher before going lower. And so the fact that we've come lower is better for the person who's long-term holding, because it was another opportunity to buy back in our low, because we buy low, we sell high, and we range sideways 80% of the time. And we know long term, you look at the chart and you zoom out, it's up and to the right. Okay, fiat currency is down and to the right, and so assets are up and to the right. Houses, cars, I guess, somewhat, but any asset that holds its value is up and to the right, simply because fiat currency is losing its value every single time they print more. It becomes less valuable, and that's all they can do is print. And we know mathematically that they can never win. If you ever hear somebody say that they're going to balance the budget or whatever, it's never going to happen. It's mathematically impossible at this point. The only possible way that they could do it is to accumulate a bunch of Bitcoin, jack the price up, and then sell it for US dollars. But guess what? At what point are they going to sell it for US dollars? When we know that's why they have to buy a bunch and then make the US dollar backed by Bitcoin, because otherwise there's no point in having US dollars. There's no point. The only reason that we have US dollars as a world reserve currency still is because for some reason people still believe it has value. And that has to do with the fact that the education system is teaching you to do the wrong thing. They're teaching you to maintain their best interest, not yours. So one of the best sayings in crypto, and it's basically Crypto 101. It should be one of the first. If you're ever watching anybody, or you're listening to anybody, and they don't say do your own research, then you don't listen to them, because I encourage you, and anybody that is out for your best interest will encourage you to do your own research. Okay, don't listen to anybody. Listen to as many people as you can and find out as much as you can on whatever you're looking into, and then make your best educated opinion on what you think. Because if anybody is telling you this is the way it is because I said it, because I've spent a lot more time on this, you're going to want to do this, it's because they're simply out to benefit themselves. not you. They're out to benefit themselves, one way or another. And we've seen this for so many years when it comes to the banks, and the banks are on their way out if they don't adopt Bitcoin and crypto, and which we're seeing it happen. So I think ultimately, if we do make another low, it'd be nice to just spend some more time in the 80s and honestly have a range like this zone here from 92 to 76. I'd love to see that be our next range, and even just sit here and go sideways from a high of around here to a low of around here, all the way to October, all the way to September, October this year, 2025. And then if that does happen and we hold, then we're looking very good for a, then we'd probably see like another 30, 40, maybe 45% pump, and that would put us somewhere in the realms of what, 150,000? Let's see here. If we maintain this range, say we're going from right here, 40% pump, so not even like 20% or 120,000. That's realistic. I've heard a lot of people say that Bitcoin's going to be at like 500,000 by the end of this year, and that is not, that's not going to happen. I'll tell you that right now for free. If it does, great. I mean, I've been DCAing for a while. Of course, I lost all my Bitcoin in a surfing accident, so I don't have any, and I really wanted to come down lower so that I can actually buy back in, because I've made a series of terrible decisions that have lost me all my Bitcoin over and over and over again. Every single time I buy something, I lose it. But you should be smarter than me, and you should self-custody your Bitcoin. Don't let anybody else hold it. Don't let anybody else be in charge of it, and you will be better off. But there's another thing. There's always another thing. That's a thing too with news. You got to watch out for that. There's always another thing. But there is another thing. So what happened today is Trump also did tweet about the cryptos and or Bitcoin that are going to be in the reserve. So he announced today that Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, and XRP will all be held by the United States as a strategic reserve. So that's probably the main reason why we've seen something like this. But I am not convinced yet that this is going to be a break back into this range and hold this range before going higher. But that's what it looks like at the moment. We have now, after losing this range, we've swept the liquidity, and now we're back inside this range. So if this is fair value, we have come back into fair value. And as long as we hold fair value, then yes, there's a very good chance that we keep going sideways before going higher. I don't see anything really substantial like inverse head and shoulders, anything like that. Like with down here, we see if we go back over here, we see like a shoulder, head, and a shoulder before going higher. And we've got this sort of even like a cup and handle. Like that's kind of what we're looking for. You're looking for, when you're looking for strength in the market, you're looking for a low, a high, a higher low, and then a higher high, a higher low, because it always moves like this, right? Before eventually rolling over and going the other way. So if you're trading, you're trying to buy these as your lower highs, and a lot of the times you can use trend lines to do that and stuff like that. But what we're hoping for now is, it's different for everybody. That's why it's called personal finance. But for me personally, I would love for us to come back up here a little bit more, maybe hold that, maybe come back up to here and have people go, oh my God, we're going to 140, you're going to 150, we're going to be rich. And then they're just going to be like, oh, whammy, back down and slam it on everybody. Oh, but back to the poorhouse with you, right? Because it's not that easy. They don't make it that easy. I think it is kind of easy once you've watched how the markets move and you figure it out. But if you're focused on too small of a time frame, it makes it very difficult because you lose sight of the bigger picture. And really, when it comes to the bigger picture, all you really need to do is buy and hold. Learn how to properly store and take custody of your crypto and Bitcoin on your hardware wallets, on your cold storage wallets, on all that stuff. Do your own research, do your own due diligence. Time in the market is greater than timing the market. The reason being is because you're going to do nothing but learn the whole time you're in the market. And what I did in 2018 or 2019, I can't remember when it was, after a massive run up in funds, and then a massive dump in funds, I was like, this is a scam. I'm out. And I stopped paying attention for a few years, and then I get back in, and things are twice as high as they were last time I looked, and I was like, what did I miss? Of course, I was doing a lot of other things. I have a family, and I was buying a house, and I still did okay for myself, luckily enough. But what I failed to do was stay in the market. I just didn't. I didn't, not only financially, or not only like with funds and stuff, but I just didn't even pay attention to the markets. I didn't do any research at all. I completely I focused on the band Deep Sea Gypsies, and that was a whole lot of fun. I'm glad I did. I have zero regrets, because what I've figured out now. I've realized it doesn't change. It's the same thing over and over again. The only thing that I will point out that I've noticed that is changing is that I think the market I think the market swings are getting quicker, and that's because the debt is getting higher faster. So when we have the debt getting higher faster, the numbers are increasing faster because the debt is higher, and it's the yield curve starts out slow, and like I say, it falls off a cliff. And this happens all the time in the charts. You can look at so many stocks that were sideways for 30 years, and then finally something happens and they just freaking skyrocket, or were great for 30 years and something happens and they just dump. And that's what happens, is because things move fast. They stay steady for a long time, and then the moves happen. And it has to do with yield curve. It has to do with interest rates. It has to do with compounding interest, compounding emotion, compounding whatever's going on in this scenario. If we're moving from old tech to new tech, or if we're moving from analog to digital, we're moving forward, things are going to change. So with Bitcoin, honestly, best case scenario for humanity, Bitcoin goes down. I know that doesn't sound good for a lot of people, but if Bitcoin goes down, that means that your purchasing power is going up. That means the strength in the economy is going up. The only reason Bitcoin goes up like it does is because it's showing the signs of a crumbling economy. Bitcoin is a capped supply. When you have something that's a capped supply and you're comparing it to something that's infinite, US dollars are infinite because all they do is continue to print them, it's going to do nothing but go up in value, because the more you print, the more less valuable what you're printing becomes. Therefore, anything that it's compared to, even if it's just holding its value, it appears to go up in value. So best case scenario for everybody as a whole, because a lot of people have no idea about any of this kind of stuff, and it's terrible. It's sad. It's very unfortunate, because it really doesn't take too much time, and everybody has to abide by this system. So I'm very surprised how many times I've had conversations with people, and even in their 60s and 50s, years older than me, should be much more experienced in how the world works, yet know nothing and don't care to know anything. It's not only that they don't know anything, they just don't even care to know anything. They don't care at all. They're like, oh, I got a job, I got a pension, I'm good. But it's like, holy moly. The crazy thing is I guess this is just how things work, because anybody that gets comfortable, they don't ever need to figure anything else out. So the people that get comfortable end up suffering the most, because they thought they were comfortable. But guess what? Your pension is now worth 50% less than it was 6 years ago. Are you going to have to go back to work? A lot of people are going to have to go back to work, because they had $1 million that they was supposed to last them the next 20 years. But guess what? That $1 million isn't going to last you shit anymore. And in fact, every single day, it's going to last you less and less and less. So not only is that money that you saved becoming worth less than it was when the value you actually put in there, it's becoming worse every day. For the first time in human history, we have an asset that you can work for your value, prove yourself, add to that value, and then in the future, your value can actually become more. That's what Bitcoin is. So anybody out there that, it's tough, but if you look back in, we had, 50s and 60s and 70s, people were creating businesses, things were going great. It's because the dollar was backed by gold, and it was you were able to store your value in something that could actually help you in the future. And then ever since then, we've just seen most companies crumble. They lose through generations the information because the people that were given the businesses didn't work for them, did not understand the value, probably weren't taught properly because the person that did all the work to create that business had no time to hang out with their family and their kids because they were working so hard. Because of course they say, I'm doing this for you, but in turn you really gotta make sure that if you're doing it for them, that you're doing it properly. Because one of the things that I've seen happen many, many times in businesses, families, corporations, everything is one person or one group of people will start something, and 50 years later, it'll 50, 60 years later, it'll crumble because the generational wealth that they should have created crumbles due to lack of knowledge from the generation who is next and who has inherited it without having to work hard for it. So what we're seeing right now, places like El Salvador, who used to be, some of the most terrible places in the world to live, have now adopted Bitcoin and crypto, and simply because they were so down and out, they had nothing else left to lose. So they're like, well, why don't we try this, right? And the people who are comfortable in the United States with their United States dollar are the last to adopt this type of stuff. Well, fortunately not the last, but they are not the first. So the people that were the first are going to be the biggest creditors that they're going to get the most out of it. The people who get in last are going to be the least, and that's how everything's always been. It's if you want to get rich or create wealth or whatever, you need to get into whatever's new, and you need to be first. You need to be in the first group. So we're luckily enough, we are still only in the first 15 years, 16 years of Bitcoin's existence. So we have another 100 years, 110 years before the rest of it is mined. So you can thank Satoshi, because even though it seems like $100,000 Bitcoin is expensive and it's too late, you're in luck, because it's not. And in even 5 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, dang, I should have bought Bitcoin at 100,000. That would have been a steal. Because of course Bitcoin will be at 500,000 or 800,000 or a million eventually. As long as we continue to go on the road that we're on right now, Bitcoin will do nothing but go up. At some point there will be a flippening to where people are, a majority of people realize that they're like, okay, like, I give up. You were right. Those people who have been talking about this were right. And then we see some sort of financial shift happen. Of course, what's happening right now is the elite are trying to do that behind closed doors without the majority knowing what they're doing, figuring out what they're doing. But it's clear as day. You see, we're talking trillions of dollars here. Like, that's what I want to. I've tried to talk to a lot of people about. When it comes to money, you see people on TV that are rich, right? But they have multi-million-dollar homes, a couple, maybe 2 or 3 cars worth $1 million. Like, okay, so their net worth is what? 10 million, 100 million, maybe even $1 billion. That's not rich. Not anymore. There is trillionaires in this world. There's people who manage trillions of dollars. Okay, you would never know that they're rich, because society doesn't want you to know those people are rich, because they're unbelievably rich, literally unbelievable. If you don't have a good mental wealth, I'm sure you've heard of mental health. Well, mental wealth can be just as important. If you don't understand a proper mental wealth, then you're never going to understand how rich some of these people are, how rich some of these entities, some of these families are. The families that you see on TV that are said to be rich are not. I watch people on YouTube that trade with these people's net worth in one trade. Okay, they are rich. We're talking billions in the, like, I don't even know, in the bank. I don't even know where they put their money, because they have so much of it that it's honestly probably a burden that they have so much they don't know what to do with. But I watch the charts. I watch money inflow, outflow. I find it quite fantasizing, and I see millions going in seconds and millions coming out in seconds. I see these quote rich people's net worth coming and going from the crypto markets in a matter of minutes. Okay, if somebody is coming and going with that amount of money, they have so much money that you can't even fathom it. Most people who have a general aspect or a grasp on what they think is reality could never understand it. And I didn't even think it was real. So I was like, what are you like, how? The first time I ever saw this kind of stuff, I'm like, there's no way. And then you see it more and you see it more. Just like riding a bike, just like reading a book, just like learning how to speak. When we're born, you can't speak English, you can't speak any languages, but you're around it long enough, and you surround yourself with people who can, and then you start to pick it up and you start to understand. So I advise you, if there's something that you're looking to learn how to do, just surround yourself with a bunch of people who are already better at it than you and learn from them. And if they give you a chance to ask questions, write your answers down, write your questions down. Writing things down is or typing it however you want to in your phone, whatever. Just do more than just listen to it. You want to take that information in two different ways minimum. So you hear it as one, and then you write it down as two. And so now you've got it stored in your brain in two separate places in your brain. And this is how the brain works, right? You've got your brain is made up of sections, and all these sections do different things. And it's a lot easier to remember something if you have it stored in multiple places, right? That's pretty simple. So whenever you're learning anything, make sure that you try and learn it or write it down or whatever in two different places. And that's why you have things like senses of smell bring back weird memories and things like that. It's because you've just unlocked another memory from another part of the brain, and that's what's brought it up. So whenever you're learning, try and do that. It'll help, because a lot of this stuff is insane. And I admit too, like the first few years I was watching charts, I was like, what's going on here? This is insane. Especially when you go down to like the 1 minute chart and you're just like, what is happening here? Divergence? No, that's not. Oh, I just got wrecked. Oh. Right? It's like, but eventually you get it, because you hang out with people who understand it, who have been in it longer. And then you surround yourself with those people and you do nothing but learn. And, also putting a little bit of your own money in helps you stay focused, because then once your money's in, then you're more inclined to pay attention and stay paying attention. Because as soon as you exit the market, you have no reason to pay attention again. So if you're not actually like interested in it, you'll just lose. And that's probably what we saw on Friday. We probably saw Thursday, Friday, a lot of people that probably got in the last 2 months just say, screw this, I'm out, and took the loss. And I do believe on Friday, there was a statistic that came out that we saw the most people selling at a loss in all time Bitcoin history. Of course, we're going to start seeing things like that all the time because the numbers are higher. So when the numbers are higher, you're obviously going to lose more money or make more money. So take that how you will, but that's inflation for you. For instance, if you watch sports, I just watched Jays game earlier today. Go Jays, looking good. Santander added to the lineup. I like that. Let's go, boys. Let's go. Shohei Ohtani signs a record contract, and then, or the next year somebody else, there's always, every year somebody signs a bigger contract, simply because, first of all, it's the agents pushing the numbers and bumping the numbers up. But basically, that's just another sign of inflation. It's funny because when you see it in the news, people go, oh my God, can you believe so-and-so just got this much signed for, it's like, well, yeah, obviously, like last year, so-and-so got signed for this much. So to break par with our 6% inflation over the last year, then he has to get paid that much. And that's why they do things on contract basis. And that's another thing too, is that's pretty much for organizations, so they don't lose a bunch of money. But, that's why a lot of the bigger, well-known players usually only sign 1-year contracts, because they know they don't want to sign. I mean, unless you've got a young family and you want to like actually spend time there, they know that the 1-year contracts are going to make them more in the long run, because if they sign a 10-year contract, by the end of that 10 years, that is not going to seem like a very good payout anymore. And there's going to be kids that are getting paid more than them, which is understandable because the kids coming up these days are insane. But that's just another sign. Like everything in this world revolves around the monetary policy. So it doesn't matter what you do, what you're interested in, what you like to do. If you're a mountain biker, your mountain bike's more expensive than it was 10 years ago, right? And sure, for technology, you've got better parts and cool new things coming out and stuff like that. But ultimately, no matter what you do, everybody knows that life's getting more expensive. And the simple answer for that is because they're printing more money. Unfortunately, they're printing more money because people don't want to work anymore, so people are asking for stimulus. We've got record welfare, we've got record unemployment, we've got record all this stuff. Baby boomers are getting Social Security and CPP, and so we've got a record number of stimulus happening right now, and that's why we're seeing markets absolutely fly, because all they're doing is printing these markets to infinity, because the more they print, the more the markets go up. The purchasing power goes down, markets go up. For instance, the S&P and the NASDAQ the other day, what was it, on Friday? This fall right here, they were like, it made the news. Like, okay, yeah, it's a nice little red chunk here, but this fall of what? Let's see, from the all-time high, which by the way, it was at an all-time high, all-time. And in 4 or 5 days, we dropped almost 5%. That's like almost unheard of in these markets, but obviously not, because there's one right there. What's this one? From a previous all-time high, we went down 8%. And so these numbers were very few and far between in the markets in the past. But the fact is, again, yield curve coming back. Everything's getting crazier faster because of this. So look at the market. So yeah, okay, so we went down 5% of the last few days. But let's see, let's go back to just a year ago. Where are we here? What is it right now? It's March. So let's go back to a year ago. December, January, February, March. Okay, so a year ago, right here, a year ago, we're sitting right here. Markets went up 20% before coming back down 5%. So the market is still up 15% in the last year. So even if you're in traditional stocks, you're up 15% in a year. And that is up until the last few years, up until 2020, really, because 2020 is what did everything in. By the way, if you think anything other than market manipulation, you need to do your own research on what happened, because it is clear as day when you look at the markets to what they're doing when they were doing it. Okay? Clear as day. Look at the markets. We go back to prior, and we have something like this. I don't know, maybe somewhat of a steady rise. And then we have said scenario where we have panic in the streets. But of course, this whole time it's in the news. This whole time it's in the news. And it stops hitting the news right here. And they start talking about other things. You need to do this. You need to do this. Stay away. All these things. You need to follow this line, this arrow. Pay attention to this. Focus on this. And meanwhile, the market rallies back up in a matter of, what's that, a month? Almost back. So let's just do a quick little measuring tool here. In a matter of 29 days, market falls 35%. 35%. And in a matter of, when did we actually get back? In a matter of 150 days, okay, comes right back up. 150 days. So if you had bought anywhere in here, you're looking good. And again, here's that purple line. Here's that 200. So we were far away from the 200. Boom, we lost the 200. Now we're really far away. Obviously, that's major manipulation. But look, back to the 200. And we're above the 200. Okay. Now, we come back to the 200. Look at that. After, that's probably a year of being away from the 200, back to the 200. Below the 200. Oh, retest the 200. This is 2022 bear market, I believe. And then, wham. So we went from being somewhat of a, you know, it's still pretty much up and to the right, but I would say it's, you know, it's not crazy until this happened. And once this happened, now we can't even, now I have to make the chart smaller just so we can even look at it. And now look at this, that massive scenario there is but a speck of dust. How does Paul McCartney say it? We are but grains of sand. It says but grains of sand. But grains of sand in the now look at us. And look how many people probably sold and got wrecked back there. And guess who bought? Guess who bought? The big boys. The big boys bought. And that's another thing that I want to bring up. That brings me to this area here. So we just saw retail sell, and we just saw the whales buy. It takes about $600 billion probably to move the market like this. And it took 3 days during the week when Wall Street's open to move the market down that much. Of course, a lot of those were triggered stop losses and sell orders and stuff like that. But they forced the market down to soak up that liquidity. And in a matter of hours, because this is a one daily candle, but this literally happened. If we zoom in, I do believe this happened in about an hour. Maybe look at that, 3 hours. In 3 hours, we went all the way from 85,000 to 95,000. $10,000 pump in 3 hours. Look at the volume here. On a Sunday, mind you, when most people are at church, there's the old inverse head and shoulder, or the old ball cock ball, whatever you want to call it, and before going higher. But this was not retail. This was not mom and pa. This was not your 30-year-old worker, construction worker. Okay, this was whales, probably exchanges. They have flushed enough liquidity out. They're happy to push the price back up so they don't have to pay those longs. But on the flip side, let's go check the liquidity, because I haven't even looked at this today. So let's see. 24 hour. No, I want to go Model 2. I like Model 2. And we're going to go. Come on. Okay, so still more liquidity above us in the immediate short term. So probably going to see one more liquidity sweep to the top, to the upside. Let's go a month. Oh no, I want to go 2 months. Oh, there's still so much liquidity up there. Oh man, this is not looking good. I don't know how much lower we're going to go, guys. I don't know how much lower we're going to go. Okay, thank goodness. Down at 72,000. We've only got $44 million on Binance. Let's go to symbol here. Overall symbol. Okay, if I'm correct, now we've got 30 million. Oh, it's just not a lot. There's 36 million sitting right there. Why would they try and push the price all the way down here for this 36 million if they can just push the price right there for the 36 million? What do you think is going to happen next? Oh boy. I can't say for sure. All I can say is hit up Shirley Sound Studio. This is my shop. You can buy yourself a Bitcoin shirt, wear it out, and see if anybody talks to you. I accept Bitcoin. I accept it because like I said earlier, I spent a lot of time trying to educate people on what I thought was good for the planet back in the time, but I've since realized that the planet was around a lot longer before we were, and it's going to continue to be around a lot longer after we're done. So I think the planet's going to be fine. I'm not too worried about that anymore. What I am worried about is trying to help my friends and family not be in the poorhouse for the rest of their life, because all you need to do is look at what's going on, and you can see. So, but yeah, this is the website. Check out the website. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Bing bong. I'm going to start doing some lives. This one right here is unlisted, so nobody's watching, but I might post it after the fact and see. But I'm just having fun here. I'm just having some fun. And I just really want... what I don't want is to lose my friends to slavery, basically, because I've seen the signs of it happening, and it definitely upsets me. Uh, Watching some of my friends struggle financially simply because of misinformation. They believe some of the things that they are told on the news and by what they think are credible sources, but they're being completely misled, and it sucks because, you know, I still am going to be working for a few more years because I want more Bitcoin. So I'm not quitting my job anytime soon. But the fact of the matter is, I could. I don't want to because I do enjoy doing stuff during the day. I enjoy working with my hands. I enjoy building things. I enjoy working. I enjoy, BSing with the boys and having a good time, getting stuff done, accomplishing things. I could not just sit around and do nothing all day. I couldn't do that. I want to contribute. I feel the need to help out and contribute and be part of a team and accomplish goals. I love doing that. So there's for no reason anytime soon will I be quitting any job or stop offering any services that I offer, just simply because of that. But for the most part, it's because I want more Bitcoin. I get paid in fiat right now, unfortunately, but I can switch it over and live on a Bitcoin standard, and life gets less expensive for me almost every day. Of course, last week it almost got more expensive for me, but we can see today that it didn't really. So hopefully we see the market go down. I mean, it would be great to see the markets go down because that means that people would be working harder to strengthen the dollar. I believe it was John F. Kennedy who said, "Seek not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And that is something that people should really know and understand why he said that. Because a country is only as strong as the people in it. The people who run the country, which, if you ask me, are completely unnecessary at this point. Remember, we appointed politicians hundreds of years ago when we were on horse and carriage, and when we needed to talk to the other guy across the land, we were like, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't all go. Maybe we should appoint one or two guys to go, maybe three, just in case one of them dies or something on the journey, because it's going to be pretty crazy. So we'll all kind of get together. We'll talk about what we want to do. Jerry and Gerald and Kyle are gonna go on horseback, and they're gonna go across, and they're gonna talk to the other guys, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna figure it out, right? So that made sense. To appoint somebody to represent us at that time made sense. Now you have a phone in your pocket that allows you to represent yourself at an instant. So I do believe that in the future we will see something along the lines of true democracy, which would be nice. Of course, if you're a elite, then you're trying to crush this. So that's another thing that we're fighting against. But I do believe that hopefully we will prevail. If as long as you don't get manipulated by the BS that happens on your screens most of the time, I think you're going to be okay. Of course, subscribe to this show. And I'll do my best to help you. So, because I mean, I got kids. I want them to grow up in a similar situation that I did. I grew up on a farm. It was amazing. I don't live very far now from where I grew up, but actually, there's a saying I have. It's I used to live in the sticks, but now I live in the city. And unfortunately, I didn't move. I'm still in the same place. The city has come to me. And it's a little scary, but I mean, when you hold real estate, and when you hold stick real estate and they want to turn it into concrete, it's a good way to be financially set. But of course, I lost all that in a surfing accident, so I'm back at square one, trying to do my best. And all I want is what's best for my kids. So just remember, none of this is financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I do not have a license to practice financial advising. So anything that you're listening to, if you're even listening to this, is from somebody who is, first of all, I am drinking alcohol. Don't recommend that, but I am doing that. So I'm clearly not qualified to be doing this. All I can tell you is that you should just enjoy your life because you never know when it's going to be over. So how would you like to die upset? I wouldn't. So I'd just be happy every single day. But when it comes down to it, the city's moving in, so got to do what you got to do. And what I wanted my kids to grow up around here, I don't think is going to be like, that's definitely not going to be. My opinion doesn't matter. It's definitely not going to be what it was like when I grew up around here. So I've contemplated moving many, many times, but I also do love this area still, and there's still a lot of cool people and family and friends that I want to spend a lot more time with. So I don't really see myself going anywhere anytime soon. But what I think has been more of a threat is I have heard that some of my friends and family are potentially getting priced out of this area and may be forced to move. And that's what I don't want to see. I want to see the people that I grew up having fun with and learning with thrive and growing with me. So I want to do my best to try and help them and help anybody else that I can, because together we stand and divided we fall. All right, folks. So I know for short-term price action, I mean, it would make a lot more sense to go up and get some more liquidity from the upside, but it would also be possible for us to go down and grab some more liquidity from the downside too, and that's what I'm hoping to. So like I said, I hit those my 4 DCA targets were hit. It was pretty nice. I waited over 2 months for those to hit, and finally they did. Patience paid. But I would like to add to those positions if I can. And those levels will remain the same, and if we do revisit, I will be adding to those positions. As long as I don't lose them in a surfing accident this time, I'm really going to do my best to not lose them in a surfing accident. And it's crazy because I mean, it makes sense. I'm not a very good surfer, so just don't go surfing with your hardware wallet, okay? It's not a good idea. Remember to always check your pockets before you go surfing, okay? Okay? And with that being said, I think we should have Johnny play us out because I've been ranting for too long. Yeah. All right. Not that Johnny needed it, but that'll make him sound better. Someone's knocking at my door. Oh no. Play it, Johnny.
On a rainy Wednesday morning, it's the day that I was born in that old sharecropper's one-room country shack. They say my mammy left me the day before she had me, said she'd hit the road and never once looked back. I just thought I'd mention my grandma's old age pension is the reason that I'm standing here today. Got all my country learning, milking and a churning, picking cotton, raising hell, and baling hay. I've been to Georgia on a fast train, honey. I wasn't born no yesterday. I got a good Christian raising and an 8th grade education. I don't need y'all treating me this way. Sweet Caroline, I don't ever guess I'll find another woman put together like you are. Love you'll wiggle and you're walking in your big city talking. Shiny brand new Plymouth ragtop car. Hurry up and wait in this world of give and take. Seem like a haystack built for a waste of time. I hear those engines roll, sure enough I know I'm gonna get my share of mine. I've been to Georgia on a fast train, honey. I wasn't born no yesterday. I got a good Christian raising and an 8th grade education. I don't need y'all treating me this way. I don't need y'all treating me this way.